My name is Lucy, for those who don't know me. For those who know me, hey. I am a yoga teacher, but I've got to the point of my journey now with yoga where I have started implementing so many other tools like plant medicines and subconscious experiences, and and it's all yoga. I've been doing yoga for 20 years. Guys eating my earrings. Hey! And so it gets to the point where you go through lots of challenges with your yoga practice. Like for me, I had 2 births and I had to slow right down for both of those yoga practices, in that time, rather than being so like doing such a hardcore practice as I was doing before babies. Everything changed, and I've had various things happen in my life, heartbreak, and yoga has really just got me through the whole thing. And I've changed my practice for as and when I need, what the tools are. There's so many tools, but one of the major tools that I have been using that I really want to speak to a lot on this channel is the chakra system, and seeing life, and seeing our consciousness, and seeing the choices we make, and seeing all of the feelings that we have, being aware of all of this through the lens of the chakra system, which it's completely changed my life and the way that I see myself. I'm able to see other people. I'm able to see where other people are at in their energy development, and know that the way that they're behaving is because of this trauma or issue that's held in a particular chakra. And so I do this chakra therapy work. And so so many clients that I've had massive shifts in their lives, complete transformations, being able to have this lens to see the world through, and other people and ourselves. It really is an internal map of ourselves, of our childhood, effectively, and everything that shaped us, even down to our physical body, even down to our posture, the way we hold ourselves. For example, if you've got like slumped shoulders, chances are you're energetically protecting your heart. And so the practice of yoga and being able to open up through the shoulders physically, you can access those parts of yourself. Physically, you can access those emotions. Physically, you can, you do the heart opening and you just begin to cry. Physically, it activates. It's all connected. So it's all, the emotions sit in the body. And what I really want to speak to today, because it's such a powerful Aries full moon today, and I woke up this morning and I was like, I want to speak about self-respect. I want to speak about boundaries, and how having good boundaries and creating that through the sacral area and healing our sacral area allows us to step into deeper amounts of self-empowerment, which then results in more self-respect, because effectively you are choosing yourself and your own power, and to call your power back to you, rather than outsourcing your power and looking for something outside of yourself to give you a power source. And it's really interesting how these things come up in our lives. And I'm going to use myself as an example, because I work so deeply with mushrooms that my life has become this kind of journey, and you can catch me on TikTok. It's become this kind of journey of working with these energy centers and recognizing when I'm getting tests around that new energy that I've created, or the new boundary that I've created. So it can be, for the root chakra, if you get called to work on that root chakra area, and you will know because you will be feeling unsafe or fearful. The call is to work with your root chakra. And so working with that root chakra area, you'll then get tests around the fear and how much you trust. Once we completely surrender to the mother, once we completely let go and know that we will have everything that we need and we are taken care of, the root chakra is effectively a major part of the mother wound, because it's where we first had our attachment. And attachment to the mother, and our physical mother represents also our collective mother also. And so how we feel about our mother is the way that we feel about our collective mother. So when we do that healing work with our own mother, we are then able to heal our own relationship with abundance, trust, ease, flow. And so, yeah, this work is really important. And so doing that root chakra energy, and then recognizing that, there might be some issues with the sacral, because you're getting boundaries, like people are testing your boundaries like constantly, and it's like, hold on, that's not okay. And you're having to answer like, in kind of these bristly ways, because you're not used to it, or you're just kind of letting people do it, whereas inside you're feeling resentment because it's not okay. And it's not okay because it's triggering that exact thing that wasn't okay in your childhood. And that is what these triggers are about. It's about being like, okay, where do I feel like this is not okay in my life anymore? And I have to put a boundary, and no matter what the risk is. You might lose your home, you might lose your job, you might lose something. But once you've really, this is the cycle of things, right? You do some work on your root chakra, and then it's like, okay, cool, up to the sacral, we're gonna start doing some healing there. And then you're asked to place in this boundary, and that is when we can really step into the place of self-respect. Once we're really speaking up and saying that what you're doing there, what you're doing is basically just completely ignoring my feelings and my emotions in this, and you are projecting everything onto me, and I am gonna say no to this. I'm gonna take responsibility for my part. But a lot of us with this boundary setting, I'm speaking to this side first, because this is my side, this is where I sit. I used to say to the father of my children, this was my belief, not that he was really intending on being this person, but I used to say to him, you treat me like a piece of shit on your shoe. And I've then said it to other people since, and I'm like, wow, who first treated me like I was a piece of shit on their shoe? And where does that belief come from? And I felt it again today. I have to move on for this property that I'm living in, and I set the boundary. I was like, this is what I'm doing. And that is when the universe or God can come in and say, right, she's made the choice, she's chosen herself, now let's open up the path so that she can experience what we really want for her in that place of worth. Now she's set that boundary, and that is self-respect. And also then working into that self-respect is also the empowerment, which is the solar plexus, which is the fire, which is the Aries, which is saying, okay, cool, now that I have that boundary in place, I'm going to take this aligned action, and I'm going to be strong enough to do it. And it might be uncomfortable, it might be stepping out of my comfort zone, it might be like, for me it's just like, oh, I've got to like get everything into the bus and whatever, and like find somewhere to be and set it all up over again. But it's like, I am going to have the energy that I need. If I sit in this trust and I don't put energy into worrying about what's going to happen, and I just trust God, that is when, once we've really activated that fire, it then sends up this hot air into your heart that expands your heart out, and it allows you to step into deeper self-love for yourself and others. And so that's why self-respect is such an important part of love. Because when you are setting boundaries for the other people, you're saying, I love myself enough to set this boundary, and then I am self-empowered enough to walk away from that which doesn't serve me. And then, the truth of the self-love, the next stage, and it's an opening. It's not okay, you're turned on, you're ready to go, all your chakras are aligned, like, it's not like that. It's this continual cycle of coming back to those exact same wounds, because they're programmed in. So our chakras are discs of literally spinning wheels of disc. That is the translation from Sanskrit. Spinning discs, so they're like often called wheels, and they're held with information, energetic information, programming. From when we were kids, we picked up the energy of the space. It's not what someone was saying, and 95% of communication is non-verbal. it is how they're saying it. It's the energy around it. It's the intention. And as children, we feel everything. We're so extrasensory, and it's only through cognitive dissonance, which is basically being told that what we're feeling is not right, that we come out of that, in a sense, and we stop trusting our own feelings, and we stop trusting our own intuition. So really, this is how important the chakra work is. And I'm feeling, you know, I basically, I have to move on now, and I'm feeling so good and so trusting. And I feel fired up because the last 2 years it's been a Libra and Aries axis, and I've had so many of these boundaries, and I'm sure you guys have too. Where have you had to choose yourself over the collective? Where have you had to choose yourself over your family? Where have you had to put boundaries in? Hasn't it just been like wild these last kind of 1.5 to 2 years when it's been in this Libra Aries axis? And this Aries full moon marks the end before we move into the Virgo Pisces axes. And so, yeah, so if you're on the other side of this boundary setting, you know, and people are really setting boundaries with you as well, you know, it's a really good time to see where you're crossing boundaries. I've been doing a lot of that as well, seeing where I've been crossing boundaries and really owning it and speaking truth to it and not having shame around it, because this is the thing, again, the guilt of having of acting in a certain way as a trigger, and we have this guilt that sits inside us that we're like trying to put a boundary in, and it's like we feel guilty for putting this boundary in because we don't usually do that, and we feel guilt around it, and that's all sacral stuff as well. So the feeling of trying to put a boundary in results in this energetic feeling of guilt. And so we don't feel guilty about it, and we just say, you know, I've done all I can. I have to say what I have to say, and I'm going to speak up even if my voice shakes, and I'm going to say this even if it means the end of the relationship, even if it means I lose my home, lose my job, lose anything. I'm just going to trust that when I set this boundary, this energetic boundary, our field becomes stronger. We can let more light in. We clear more of the darkness. Every single time we set these boundaries, we create a stronger energetic field around us. And every time we step more into this empowered, aligned action, which is also, there's other depths to it as well. So the solar plexus is all about discipline. It's all about respecting yourself on that level and saying, you know, I'm not going to do that thing because that's going to hurt my body. It's going to hurt my mind. You know, discipline of like addictions to use as an example, you know. But what the sacral says is that, you know, if we go back to the sacral and how we're not able to do this discipline because of issues with the sacral, is that we go too much into pleasure because we haven't had these boundaries around pleasure and pain, because we have always had very painful experiences and quite often numb them with these pleasurable experiences. So smoking weed, eating food is a massive one, and our parents would feel guilty for putting a boundary in with us, and rather than just being strong in their boundaries and saying, no, I'm setting this for the child's good, but because they probably come from a triggered place where they then, you know, project onto the child, they then feel guilty, and they then give the child food or whatever they can give them to soothe them. Is this making sense? It's just, there's so much to this whole map of our internal world, but it's very easy to start to pattern read, and once you really clear these energies, you become so intuitive and so able to read your own patterns and other people's patterns too. And I really do believe that this is the key to becoming compassionate, truly compassionate towards ourselves, because once we're like, it's like this kind of beep 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 beep, where does that sit? Okay, cool, like that's just a pattern. I can own it, I can admit to it, and if we're all doing that at the same time, like, can you imagine what an amazing world it would be if we were all just taking responsibility together, and just not being like, you know, not being in fear of just saying, yeah, that's because this happened to me as a child. Like, it's not, I'm not being a victim about it. I'm not trying to make you feel guilty. I'm just saying I take responsibility for that because that is my pattern. And yeah, so, you know, it comes back to the guilt with the sacral, and then, you know, the child then doesn't really understand the difference between pleasure and pain. So then we go into the space of trying to discipline ourselves with this lack of any boundaries around pleasure and pain. You can feel pain. It's like, I don't want to feel pain. I'm going to just eat this other thing, rather than letting the child like process the emotions of, hey, there's a boundary here. I'm not going to feel guilty about putting a strong boundary. And this is a mother who uses this chakra system and has cleared quite a lot of their own trauma, and so doesn't respond in that reactionary way, but is still able to give these beautiful, strong boundaries that the child feels safe behind. It gives us a sense of safety. If someone gives us a boundary but still loves us, and they say to us, hey, I'm just gonna like do this for your own good in a loving way, and then gives the boundary, stops the behavior, whatever that looks like, doesn't give them the screen time, whatever that looks like. But the parent has to have the energetic system for it. You have to have a strong nervous system, and all of this chakra work creates a very, very strong nervous system, because that's what an energetic field is. Our nerves, our ganglions on our spinal cord are actually, that's where the chakra points attach. And so a healthy nerve system, healthy energy system, you create this beautiful electromagnetic field that gives you this strong, powerful nervous system that you can tolerate a lot of energies coming at you, big energies, and still be able to keep that inner sense of calmness. Yeah, so that is probably there's so many benefits to this chakra system. Hey, it's been a real game changer for me and a lot of people. So I really just want to talk about this self-respect a little bit more, just this piece of self-respect, because it really does depend on these boundaries and making sure that we are owning our stuff of where we have a part to play in this boundary. Take responsibility for our side, recognize where we might be taking too much responsibility again, and then saying, if it is a projection, just handing it back, and really just trusting and knowing that even if it does risk everything, we're still going to do it. Anyway, we're still just going to trust. And that is self-respect, I believe, is really just continuously checking through every relationship in your life, checking through every energetic output that you're doing, and seeing, does this align with me? Does this align? Have I got other thoughts that are saying I don't really want to be doing this? Because that is actually what's creating your reality. And so it will come crashing apart unless you make the decision to change it, because you've already made the decision. But you bring it up to your conscious level and say, you know what, this is what I want, and pray and ask God. God always keeps his promises. Yeah, he always keeps his promises. So just keep praying, and that's what I'm going to be doing. And so yeah, I think tonight's a really good night on the Aries full moon, any night, to go inside and feel into your relationships and what you're gaining from them and what you're giving, and whether it is a fair balance, and if you feel like you're being disrespected, first of all, speak up to it. That's the first, give the person the opportunity. And then if it's that same pattern that comes back at you, then that, self-respect's not going to be served at that table anymore. So that's the point where you can make a choice. And even if it comes to the point where you've got no one around you, you've said no to so much, that's a really exciting place to be in, because at that point, you are in full trust and alignment, and you're okay with being alone. And that's a really powerful place to be. So yeah, I'm just going to leave it at that for today. I hope you've gained something of what you were hoping to gain in this chat. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you here again soon. Sending so many blessings and biggest love.